session, December 17th. If everyone can turn off their phones or put it on silent, I'd appreciate it. Okay, public participation pertaining to agenda items. Seeing none, old business, the Murdoch Boulevard property sale.
Okay, as you all know, we put the Murdoch Boulevard properties out for bid. The bids came in, we only had one bidder at $150,000. Council turned that bid down. Since then, the big question seemed to be, how much are the taxes going to be? So I requested the county to give us some idea what the taxes would be. They responded and they were enormous. So we have appealed the taxes, and the hearing date for the appeal is January 9th at the courthouse. And that appeal will be held in front of the county commissioners. Rick Beef out of Franklin, who has done many, many appeals for the people in Titusville, is handling the appeal. So he's preparing all the documents, and Rich has said he will be able to attend that hearing. So after that hearing is over, we'll know what the actual taxes will be. The commissioners agree that, you know, the valuation is way, way, way too high. As an example, they valued the townhouses at $1 million. Well, that's not even realistic. Obviously, we couldn't get a bid over $150,000. So we're going to follow through with that appeal. Then it'll be much easier to market them. Since the open house, I have shown them to 3 other people. There again, the big question was the taxes. All 3 of them thought that the $150,000 offer was not out of line. So I guess I wanted to clean this up and see where council stood. Where do you want to go from here? Does this council want to rebid them and make the bid opening after the appeal so we know what the taxes are going to be? Do you want to award it to the person who bid the $150,000? I mean, that's still an option. Do you want to market it at X amount of dollars? What is your wishes? How do you want me to close this out, or do you just want to leave it open?
I think step 1 would be figure out what the taxes are.
Yeah.
I mean, that just seems like a logical step. But I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to market something when you don't have all the information.
The original bid was from the original offer, correct?
Yes.
Is that person still interested?
I don't know that. That person has moved away from town. They've moved to Washington, D.C. Doesn't mean that they're not interested, because their family owns several apartment houses in Titusville. So that could be they still are interested. I do not know that. I do have the phone number though, and can talk.
But but what you got back from others was the tax issue. So if the taxes were understood better, rebidding might get you even more than what was bid before, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a big factor. If somebody's going to develop those and put some money into them, they have to know that they can pull a profit off of those. And if the taxes are completely out of control, no one's going to do that. So I think that's a big factor on whether we get any offers.
I think the number needs to be lowered.
It was 200.
Yes. On the townhouses was 200, ball hall was 100.
Well, we could revisit the price when we talk about putting it out to bid after the hearing on January 9th.
Yeah, you'll know more of that.
Yeah.
I think that would be my preference.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the Klingler right-of-way request.
As you're all aware, Mr. Klingler was here at the last work session, and he requested that we look at possibly selling him or giving him a right-of-way to a couple of different properties. In your packet, here's a map. I did look into those, and to start off, the property that he was talking about that is off of the edge of Spruce Street, that piece of property does not belong to us. It belongs to a private individual. So that's a non-conversation.
Well, we should have sold that to him.
As far as the property up by our water tank though, that absolutely does belong to us. And if you would take a look at this first map, this one here, up toward the top, it kind of shows you how that's laid out off of Rockwood Drive. This red part here shows how far, where this red part ends is actually about where our fence is. And it's called an undeveloped street. It is just a 50-foot right-of-way that we own back, which borders our property. Now, what he's requesting is that he gets 20 or 30 feet of this right-of-way to access this big lot that he bought. However, when he bought this, he knew it was landlocked, number one. Number two, there is property below here that belongs to the redevelopment authority that borders his property that could be purchased. So our water line does run under that. If we gave him the southern part of that, would he be over our water line? No. But we'd have serious issues with DEP. They don't want anybody getting back in there. That's why the fence is out at the street. I think we would have to fence that all along that drive to satisfy them. Now, I have not contacted them, but they're very, very particular. Back after 2011, they actually made us weld the access to our water tank shut, even though they're way up there, because that's the world we live in. So I would not be surprised if you did want to let this happen. Definitely we'd have to contact DEP and see if they were okay with that.
Does the gentleman have alternative right-of-way possibilities to get to that property?
Well, I think the only other alternative he would have would be to buy the property from the redevelopment authority, the vacant lots.
Okay, and you're satisfied that would be far enough away from our water tower property? If they sold him some, that would be on the south side of the street.
Yeah, theirs is way down here at the bottom of his property, completely at the opposite end. So, yeah, he definitely could build a roadway up through there. It would be his property.
I think we should see.
Yeah, what about buying where?
Yeah. Well, I think he should explore that avenue before
Yeah.
he comes back to us.
Well, my concern is that we have those water lines under there. And if he's harvesting timber, and I don't know the size of the timber, but it must be something worthwhile. I just don't wanna see that going over top of those lines and causing a possible issue. That's one of the reasons that we purchased the property out by the waterworks,
Yes,
to
protection.
keep that issue.
What about the gentleman that works down at the water department? Is he,
Oh, he expressed serious concerns. He says he in no way thinks that property should be sold. He feels it endangers our water supply and he wants no part of it.
yeah, I have concerns.
I guess as the best case scenario, personally, I would entertain him developing it as a roadway for the city. But as far as deeding it over to him, negative.
Even if he developed it as a roadway, we would still have to do something there to address that fence issue. That's quite a distance back there.
I understand that, but that would be a collective we.
I see.
I think he should explore if he can talk to the redevelopment authority. I mean, it just solves a lot of problems if he can go in from the south.
And
There's another option.
I don't think all his options have been expired
Yeah.
yet,
So,
exhausted.
I feel I'm too uncomfortable to give the okay for that.
I'll pass that information on to him.
thank you, Mike.
I was just curious, if that is harvesting and stuff like that, for these other people that are in the front here, is that a runoff problem?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I don't know the lay of that land.
Are there any other questions? No? Okay, moving on to the board and commission's appointments. I see that we have one expiration, and that's Rhonda Clark, and she's up for reappointment. But there's also one seeking, Joe Caldwell. What are your thoughts about putting Rhonda on? And I know in the new year there'll be an opening. The new council could consider Mr. Koval.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I read a copy of the letters that Larry sent to those folks who had expiring terms, and it's sort of requested to let us know if they wanted to be reappointed. So I think since she had the courtesy to respond positively, it would be kind of rude to,
Rhonda's done a
Yeah,
lot.
she's done a great job.
She's done a lot, but I also think that this, Mr. Koval would, be a great addition also.
Well, is
So
that just,
hopefully the new council will consider him.
is that just a matter of timing? He has to put his application back
No,
in
he
yet?
applied.
Huh?
He applied, correct?
Who are we talking about?
Mr. Koval for
Yes.
planning commission. I just don't have his application.
It's in the packet, it's yellow. And it's on
It's
here.
yellow.
Yep, it's the very, very back.
Okay, sorry.
I just,
Must have- Oh, I did see that, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I did see that.
that was dated
Thank
last
you.
month. I don't,
Well, what are your thoughts?
both of them have done a good job, stuff like that. They have their applications in, so why wait?
there's only one opening at this time. But there will be another opening in January.
Right, okay,
Yes.
I understand that.
I would support reappointing Rhonda to maintain some continuity there. She is the leader of the group, and I hate to see that get shaken up too badly.
Okay. All right. We'll put that on for a vote. All right, the next is the Shade Tree Commission. There's 2 expirations. And Barb Ives is up and Robert Cartman is up. Are we both good for those?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good? Great, put them on for a vote.
Yeah, Robert does a good job too.
Okay, resolution number 23 of 2019, the civil service rules for the police, and the resolution 24 of 2019, the civil service rules for the fire.
As we had a few issues concerning the civil service procedures, we hadn't upgraded the rules and regulations for many, many, many years. There have been a lot of changes in the rules as far as the legal aspects, the laws. So we went out to an outside firm, a consultant firm, and had them put together a whole new set of rules. Our rules used to be combined. The civil service rules included both fire and police. A lot of the laws are different for fire versus police. So they have designed the rules set for fire, set for police. These are up to date as of December 17th. I mean, they're right up to date. All the new regulations are in here. We just need council to approve them so that we have 3 vacancies right now on the Civil Service Board. We'd like to go out and, as we advertise and get new people, we would like to give them these and discuss these so that everybody is on the same page of how that is supposed to be done. And I sent you these in your packet, so there's a lot of reading in here, so you have the opportunity to kind of look them over.
Mr. Edelman?
I'm good with them.
Okay. Put that on for vote. Now, moving on to new business, resolution 25 of 2019, to appoint a city clerk.
Okay, as most people know, it was in the paper, I am resigning effective January 3rd. I am also the city clerk, so that will be the city clerk. A city clerk has to do a lot of signing, a lot of paperwork. So we don't want to leave the city in a bad way and not get things taken care of in the interim while they look for another manager. It kind of goes hand in hand with the next resolution of
Appointed
an interim city manager. I'd hate to see the things not get done in the city. We're all up to compliant with everything. I think it would be very smart if council appointed a interim city manager. If the new council is unhappy with that selection, they always have the right to change that and appoint someone else. But just for the period, even over that short period of time, that gives those guys time to take the seat, figure out what they're doing, see if this is who they want, and like I say, they always have that right to change it. The only person really that has any qualifications and is inside and knows this stuff right now would be Diana. Diana's been with the city a long time, she's well aware of everything, she takes care of all the grants. I mean, she does multi-things, and she would be the most likely that could sign documents and continue so that we don't have an interruption in city services. It's entirely up to you, that's just a background.
That's a good recommendation.
Would she do everything?
Yeah, I think she'd have to, until someone else was put in, yeah, she would definitely be overloaded. There's also a thing when we vote, if you decide, in the past, there's always been compensation for that, doing that extra job. The past interim managers have always been paid an additional salary. There again, that's totally up to you.
Yes, they always have been. Is that something you can handle? I know you're busy, but,
Bittersweet.
okay.
Okay, and as far as the amount of compensation, do we have to agree on that or talk about that?
Yeah,
What was historically going on when Gary did it?
when Gary had the interim, it was $1,000 a month.
It's not nearly enough.
I'm truly not interested in the extra additional compensation, so just so you didn't consider that, that's not, still not a lot of extra work, that's 2 jobs.
And it may require her to even work over. I mean, she obviously wears a lot of hats now.
Yeah.
I think it depends a lot on, the grants that we have outstanding, how much work she has to do involving those grants. It takes up a great deal of time. CDBG is a huge amount of time. And obviously, you may be actually taking care of some of the airport type grants too. You're programmed into that, so there's a lot of grant work.
Okay, I think 1,000. We can budget for that because we're not paying your salary, Larry.
Obviously, yeah, you won't have my salary.
If it's been historically that, I think that's,
For each position, is that what we're talking?
As a, say that again.
no. You're thinking about a
$1,000
clerk,
each
about a,
position?
no, I'm not thinking, sorry, Diane, I'm not thinking that. I remember when we put Gary Thomas in there, I was thinking it was more than 1,000, sorry.
Should be more than 1,000.
But,
That's really,
How long ago was that?
That was when I was hired, 20
yes. Well, if we're good with 1,000,
I think Bill's question was, is there 1,000 for each paper here, per position?
for clerk and then 1,000 for city manager.
It has never been paid on a clerk.
Okay,
Okay, it's not.
let's, I think 1,000's fair.
I was gonna say, I don't.
You don't?
To do 2 jobs,
What's the city manager making a month?
A month?
Roughly 6.
What is the city budget right now paying as a salary for that job?
$79,950 a year.
So,
So if you divide that out by
12? I don't know.
it's extremely hard to sit here during this conversation.
I am
With
sorry.
1,000.
You just go.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, she's technically gonna be doing your job.
it's $1,537 a week.
Yeah, she's technically gonna be doing your job
Yes.
and we budgeted for it, the city can afford it
I
to
mean,
pay her something, a little more.
okay, then let's split it and we'll do 1,250.
I'm good with that.
We're
Okay.
talking month versus week, you realize that.
I do understand that,
Yes.
yes. I feel that's fair.
still not fair, but better.
Well,
I agree.
yeah. Resolution 27, 2019, Article 191, airport fuel sales.
Okay, as you all know, since we now have control of the airport, it is upon us that we have to figure out a way to set prices for the fuel. Article 191, as a city, we have to set those by a council. It's not set by a manager. So that has to be entered into Article 191, which requires a resolution. I put some information in here on some of the comparison prices. If you see this slip that says Purvis on it,
Yep.
that's where we buy fuel. The last amount of fuel we bought was 100 low lead. It was, we bought 783 gallons. And the cost, if you divide that out, is $5.12 a gallon that we pay for this fuel. We are, as of today, selling it for $4.90. Not exactly good business. It's very difficult because the competition is all over the place. It's like trying to regulate a gas station. If you look on the back side of that paper, here are fuel prices within 50 miles of our airport. And they go anywhere, we are the absolute lowest, we're the absolute lowest on this sheet. Next to us would be neighboring airports, Corey, Meadville, and Franklin. They're at $4.99. And the reason they're at $4.99 when they cost $5.12 is they haven't bought any fuel in a long time. That's the lag issue. So it's really difficult to figure out how to do this. If you average these all out, at the very top you'll see in fine print, the average is $5.32 a gallon. And this is up to date too. This is as of like a few days ago. So the only way that I could figure to be able to regulate this, obviously council can't be meeting constantly to regulate fuel prices at the airport. So I think if we went like a percentage above cost when the fuel's delivered, and maybe give a 60-day lag time before we raise those prices, because we do have some fuel left in the tanks that we bought at a lower price. That maybe would give our competitors a chance to buy, to also purchase fuel and have to raise their prices. I think if we did it immediately, we're gonna be the high person for a period of time, which could cost us sales. But there again, there's a lot to consider. Fuel sales need to be run like a business. I mean, if we put a lot of effort, it costs $50,000 to get these upgraded to take credit cards. Filters cost money, hose costs money, everything. There's fees involved in the credit cards. If we don't make at least 10% on our fuel, we're losing. And we really, nobody's in business, not that the city's in business, but we have to maintain our airport. That's part of having a nice airport. It has to be maintained. And I think that as part of it, we need to keep our prices down, but we have to very bottom line break even or a little better. I think 10% above cost is reasonable. Your credit card's gonna take 2.5% of that. So really it's 7.5% above cost. The time you buy filters and hose and all the things that go along with it, computer problems, you name it, we're really not making a ton of money. It's entirely up to you. That's the research
And
I've done.
leave it at 60 days, a 60-day lag time before that price goes up.
Yeah, and that's the way we're doing. We put that temporary in the resolution until we see how you did, because we have to vote tonight. That it would be a 60-day lag, but certainly that if you wanted a longer lag, that's fine too.
I think 2 months is ample.
All right, so based on this 4/11/19 date, it could go up immediately.
Correct, because once we get, and we're closed right now, we're not selling fuel because the pumps are not totally finished. When we set up the new price and open back up, I think we should be adjusted from the price we paid at our last delivery.
What kind of markup are you talking?
10%.
So what would that make the price of a gallon of low lead out there be when we raise it?
$5.61.
I get $5.64.
Oh, okay. I won't argue with you.
It's a substantial.
That's compared to the others, it's a pretty,
Not really.
well, you're at Erie at 5.66.
You'll notice a lot of your bigger airports are way up. There's some at 6.15, and the reason that is they get fuel often, so they're paying that higher dollar, so they're always going to appear considerable higher. They get fuel, you know, I don't know how often, but much more often than we would, or at least smaller airports.
And at this point, historically, we're not getting that many deliveries over a year, are we?
Maybe a couple.
So the price wouldn't change like every other week or
No,
anything
it would
like
be
that?
nice.
You need to buy smart, okay? And buying smart, your tanker typically has like 8 compartments in it, and each compartment is set aside for each delivery area, okay? So when you go on the logistics board where we buy the fuel, you want to take and buy your fuel when there's the most people delivering off this truck. If you're the only one on the truck, your transportation, you're paying the full transportation charge. So that's buying smart. The other thing too is don't take and buy 3,000 gallon of fuel. You want to take and buy 700 to 1,000 gallons, and you want to, like late fall or whatever like that. You might take a little bit, or in the spring.
You know, I think cooperation with the other small airports too, there's some communication there. You know, when they're gonna get fuel, you get in about the same time, then you got the same investment there. You're gonna be pretty much in line with each other. But that's would be a management issue on the part of the airport manager.
So we good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, do
moving on
something.
to the,
I said, we have to do something.
okay. Moving on to the city council reorganization meeting.
Third class city code is very clear. It says that the meeting should be held the first Monday of the year. It also states that it should be held at the same time and same location that it has been held. So that would be January 6th, 6 o'clock here.
Okay. When do you do that? When do you advertise for that?
Actually, we could do it any time, as long as we go to the 24-hour notice, I think. It's,
Okay.
And we don't put it out there.
Are there any questions? Public input?
Curious, how many gallons a year do we sell out at the airport?
I can't tell you gallons. I'm only aware of how much dollars we sold. In 100 low lead as of November, we sold $17,000 worth. I don't know the figure of gallons offhand.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Yes,
Mr. Crouch?
John Crouch, 708 North Perry. Since the outgoing airport manager is here, did I hear you correctly that right now it's still shut down out there? The fuel is.
Yes, that's correct.
Any projections on that?
They had a few software issues. I would expect them to have them ironed out in the next couple of days.
Okay. Right now, still no to that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Your figure for fuel sales was for 2019,
Yes,
or was that new?
that was 11 days of 2019, as of November.
Okay, so that's roughly 3,500 gallons.
I got, well,
490.
yeah,
Okay. So about 3,500 gallons.
and with the 24-hour service that we'll have now, I would expect that we would even get some increased sales. They can come in, they don't need to call anybody, they can fill up on their own, just like we do at a gas station.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, we're gonna move into the voting meeting. And I'm gonna call to order the voting meeting. We're gonna stand for the invocation and then the pledge of allegiance. You kindly stand. Heavenly Father, I wanna thank you. I wanna thank you, Lord, for your guidance, for your mercy, for your patience with me for 12 years, Lord. I thank you for how you've helped. I thank you for your mercy to not just this council, but councils prior. Thank you, Father. I pray, Lord, that you will be with us to make the wise decisions, the right decisions for our community. I pray for the incoming council, Lord, that you guide them. Give them direction, your direction, Father God. I pray that you'll be with us tonight. For all that you do, we'll give your name the honor and the glory. In Jesus' name we ask it all. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Edelman?
Here.
Mrs. Champion? Here. Mr. Frazier?
Here.
Mrs. Leonardi? Here. Mrs. Smith?
Here. Okay, well, first of all, was there an executive session after our last meeting? No, okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as prepared?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Doesn't matter.
Bill and Tammy? Comments or questions? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes?
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of November 26, 2019 as submitted and placed on file?
Motion to accept, Mayor.
Donald and Bill, are there any questions or comments? No? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes?
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Public participation pertaining to the agenda items.
James Elliott, 306 North Franklin Street. Do you happen to have any more copies of tonight's agenda? I didn't have it on the back. I don't know if that was,
We ran out here, so the front for the agenda.
I didn't,
Anybody can share.
when I came in, there wasn't one, so, thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, moving on to the reports. The city manager's annual report. Is there a motion to accept the city manager's annual report as submitted and placed on file?
I'll make that motion.
Heather,
I'll second it.
Tammy, Larry?
Okay, I'm required as the city manager to once a year give an annual report to the public and the city council. I usually do these the same every year. I've done them this way since I started in 2011. I start and I break it out, basically the bigger projects that were accomplished in the different departments throughout the city. So I start this one out with the police department. We had quite a bit of change around in positions in the police department. We had our chief retire, he resigned, and so we promoted in-house Dustin Lagula to our police chief. And we also, that created an opening so that we promoted Jason Bean to sergeant, Aaron Madden to lieutenant, and Tim Russell to detective. The other thing that was accomplished in the police department was we did a complete renovation to, they have a little kitchenette in there that they cook in. It has a little stove, a sink. We totally renovated that. It was the original one that was when the station was built in the early 90s. Bad need of repair. It's all finished. In the fire department, I think everybody knows that we had an aerial truck donated by Gunji Township. That was a real blessing to all of us. It's a very, very nice truck, and it'll do us a real good job. Of course, everybody knows that right now we're in the process of getting the roof raised. That is being paid for with CDBG funding. That work will start the week of Christmas. So next week that work is going to begin. The first 2 weeks are going to be mostly inside work. They're going to be taking apart electric lines and getting ready to actually take the roof off. Right after the first of the year, the trusses should be here, and during that week, weather permitting, they're going to take the roof off and get the new roof on and sheeted so that we'll be able to get back operational. In the interim, we've made arrangements to put our vehicles elsewhere where they're heated so that we don't have freeze-up problems. They're a little scattered out, but Chief Lamy has worked out with some people where to store them. Everybody's on board. We're just going to have to work to our best of our ability to get that done. Moving on to Public Works. Public Works has accomplished an enormous amount of things, as they have for the last several years. Start out, we negotiated a 5-year contract with the union, and everybody was in agreement. It was a good contract for everyone. We did a total rehab of the mechanic storage room and reorganized it. We put new wiring, lights, and a workbench into the carpenter's bay. It was a real mess. And we installed storm sewer extension to accommodate the YMCA new parking lot. We installed lights, benches, table, and bike racks along the trail as a grant match for the redevelopment authority. If you've been down on the trail behind the middle school, you'll see all the new lights down there. As part of that grant, we agreed to install all those. And believe me, it was quite labor intensive. I was wishing that maybe I shouldn't have spoke up and said we'd do that, but we did it. It's all finished. Many, many hours of work by our Public Works. They've done a great job. We built a rock wall between Public Works and the VFW with a stone that we got from the Main Street house that we burnt down. We installed new LED lights in the Public Works lunchroom, the restroom, and Norm's office. We purchased a new stove and refrigerator for the Public Works lunchroom. We formed and poured a sidewalk on the vacant lot on West Central Avenue, the lot the city owns down here where the old restaurant used to be, right behind City Hall. That sidewalk was horrible shape, and we're asking everyone else to fix their sidewalks. It's only right that we take care of ours. We also poured several ADA sidewalk ramps over the course of the summer up in the residential area. We finished the side top ball field, installed bleachers, scoreboards, storage box, and a flagpole. Sadly, Ryan Westcott resigned as the Public Works Director. We hired a new Public Works Director, Patrick Braun, who is doing a tremendous job. Public Works poured concrete and installed bleachers at the tennis courts. The bleachers there have never been anchored down. They were just sitting in mud. They're now anchored down on some nice concrete pads, which also eases the mowing. We can easily go around those pads without having to do trim. We installed 400 feet of new water line on Union Street. That line had many, many patches in it. Here again, this is another job that normally Public Works would not do a job of that size. It would have been shopped out at an extreme amount of money. They slip lined this. They actually dug in, they shoved this through the old line with very little disruption to traffic. The big thing was there was 4 or 5 houses high, but they had to dig those holes and tie those lines in. But they completed that without issues. We purchased a new skid steer that was budgeted, and we traded in an old one. And they totally, over last winter when it wasn't snowing, they totally rebuilt 2 trailers, saving us the money to have to buy 2 trailers to haul mowers and stuff. Public Works continues to do a great job. I want to totally thank them for the work they've done. It's just amazing what they do. They are really a good bunch of people. They're dedicated. They just do a fantastic job, and I personally want to thank them. Waterworks Department. The workers at Waterworks Department, this is something you would have never seen in the past either. They installed a new roof on the Petroleum Street pump station, and it was done by the Waterworks employees. It's just a good relationship we have now with the unions. These guys are willing to go out there and just get the job done, and it's a huge benefit to the city. We purchased a new zero-turn mower for the Waterworks Department as they mow not only the Waterworks area down there, they mow the Public Works West and also the Waterworks Field. So they need a good mower. Theirs is completely worn out. They continue in-house again. The Waterworks employees are installing all of the blue metal siding that you see on the exterior of the building. That's been as they have time project. The face of it was done. This year they've done the ends of it. They still have the back to go. But I believe the material is there. I'm pretty sure the material is there to do that. Moving on to the wastewater treatment plant. We had a director there, which was Kirk McFadden. He resigned. He took a job down in Franklin. He lives in Franklin, so it's pretty hard to argue with that. But we did not replace him because we advertised, and to this date, we have not found anybody that has the certifications to meet the qualified, what it requires. You need a Class A license to run a plant of our size. I can't find anybody who has that. One of our operators at this point has one, so we're still legal. And she's done a tremendous job out there, so we're in good shape. But if anybody came through the door, had the license and had the leadership ability, I personally would think that we'd want to talk to that person, because it worked out very well having that admin person, which was in charge of both wastewater and waterworks. Moving on to City Hall.
Larry, can I stop you
Yeah,
for a minute?
sure.
The individual that you just mentioned, is she or he in the union, or is that a she or he admin?
She's in the union.
She's in the union,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
City Hall. We painted Kathy's office, and Kathy is the person in the HR, the farthest office down at the end of the hallway. We painted her office and installed new LED lights. It looks like daylight in there now, and it saves electricity. We also installed new LED lights in the hallway of City Hall. One of my pet peeves since I started, I can't stand to walk into that public building and see it's dark. I'm constantly turning the lights on. Well, we have LED lights, so it's not costing us a lot of money to have it turned on. Public Works also installed the concrete base and the new sign that's out in front of City Hall. If you might have noticed, they built a little flower thing around it, and it's a beautiful sign. It was bought with a grant, which I'll touch on later on. The only cost to the city was a little bit of concrete and our manpower. Senior Center. Out at the Senior Center, we removed a 40-yard dumpster, junk up on the third floor. The third floor had so much cardboard and old craft stuff, 20, 30 years old, dried out, huge fire hazard. We put a dumpster out there, we filled it to the top, cleaned out the third floor. We also rehabbed the first floor office, including refinishing the floor, put new ceilings in, new lights, new electric, new paint, totally rehabbed, because the veterans had a girl in there who was, she was the person, the go-to person for the veterans for information. We offered that to them free of charge. They used it for almost a year. They somehow had a budget cut and they're no longer there, which is sad. We only had the office fixed up for maybe 9 months. But it looks very nice for the next thing we need it for. Burgess Park. We completed and opened the splash pad. There again, Public Works done an enormous amount of work in that. They completed all the work inside the pool house. They did all the demo work. Huge savings. We never could have accomplished that project had Public Works not stepped up and did a lot of that work in-house. We also had some volunteers that they were looking for a project, so we had them redo the horseshoe pits up by Evans Lodge. Horseshoe pits are all redone and usable. They also, the same volunteer group, repainted the exterior of Evans Lodge. Looks real nice. We purchased the blighted house and conducted a controlled burn on that house. As you can see now, it's all grass, it's all reseeded. Several of the ludes, all the fill dirt really that was in that lot used to fill it came from the YMCA parking lot. Because we helped them out with their drainage issue, their runoff water, they said they would give us all the dirt, and we didn't have to pay for hauling or anything. It was all put in there. All we did was level it off and seed it. Public Works grade seeds and installs. We installed actually electrical service also on that lot, just one outlet, and that's why that you can see they have Christmas display on that lot. They asked for that so that they could plug their lights in. So we did that. The back of Pavilion 1, we sided the back of that. It was all rotten wood. We sided it with metal, so it would never have to have any more maintenance, any painting. And we also repaired the fireplace that the kids keep busting up. It's solid concrete now, it'd be pretty hard to bust along the sides. The airport. We have a big long list of things we've done there. Of course, everyone knows we terminated the airport authority. City assumed all the FAA grant assumptions. We installed 2 sewage holding tanks behind the terminal building. There was one there and it needed pumped quite often. We installed an access road cross pipe and poured a new apron. As you go into the airport, you'll see new concrete. There was a hole in that. The sluice pipe underneath there was collapsing. So we repaired that. We painted the beacon light and the pole, and I want to thank Keith Bromley for this. Keith provided his lift truck and also his time to do that free of charge. We also painted the interior and installed wainscoting. There again, Keith did that with his own money. He provided material. I want to thank Keith for that. He did a great job. It looks very nice. We repaired 300 feet of washed out drainage on the southeast end of the airport. It was undermined, the fence. The water from the hard rain washed that all out. There was a place that it was 3 feet deep, and the deer were coming underneath the fence. So we had deer issues at the airport. That's all been fixed, and we actually did relined that ditch, and with all used concrete that we had taken out from sidewalks, broken up, we hauled that out there and used that to recycle it. We obtained a $50,000 grant to upgrade the fuel systems, and like I say, that should be complete any day. We removed and powder coated the fuel pump faceplates, and I'd like to thank Don Frazier for all his effort in that. Don has been a huge help out there. I personally want to thank him. He's given dozens and dozens of hours of his time, absolutely free, just because he enjoys doing it. He's helped the airport tremendous. He's very knowledgeable on electronics. He's painted the wind tee, the windsock. Well, I guess I shouldn't jump ahead of myself here. Anyway, I want to thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
We obtained an $80,000 grant for the obstruction removal. The survey has already started on that grant. We also obtained a $75,000 grant for Phase 1 runway rehab. This will involve drilling core samples, which that work will start on Thursday, the core samples. They'll be out tomorrow to do the preliminary, and they will start drilling holes on Thursday. Oh, here's where I wanted to give special thanks to Don, which I've already done, but I also want to give special thanks to Mark Nickerson. Mark Nickerson is an individual who really doesn't even live in the city. He's been very, very much involved with the airport for 20-some years. He was instrumental in the grants that have always been written for the grant. He helped for the airport. He helped the authority in the prior years, and he is helping the city now with those things. Some of the airport grants they're just very time consuming and very complicated, and there's a lot to them, and Mark's spent a wealth of knowledge, and we really appreciate what he's done. Public Works milled out 2 large cracks in the runway. They were over 8 inches wide, and we put hot patch in and sealed them. Bureau of Aviation said they look really nice, and so did the FAA. We rewired the beacon light to operate dusk to dawn. It was set to only come on at night. It would only come on when you hit the runway lights. When you turn the runway lights on, the beacon would come on. All these years passed until I don't know when it stopped, but it was wired to not do that. We thought that was a safety issue. Perfectly legal either way, but we decided that we would rather have the beacon light on dusk to dawn. So we made it dusk to dawn. We repaired the lights to the windsock and repainted the pole. There again, thank you, Don. Don handled that. And his wife, I believe, was involved in that too, wasn't she? Thank you, Darlene.
Thank you.
We licensed and inspected both plow trucks, including major repairs that we had to do to the pickup truck. The pickup truck was getting a lot of rust. We fixed all the rust, repainted it at Public Works. No outside help. Done a little bit of mechanical work to it, some maintenance work, and it's back out there now. We use the plow. We completed the construction of the SRE building has been completed, and the grant has been closed out. We completed 5 years of audits. We closed out 5 open grants that were on the books when we took over that needed closed out. We timbered all the ash trees on the property before they were a total loss. Initially, we were going to timber hardwood. We did not. We timbered only ash trees. The hardwood is still there. It was just a wet, terrible job to get in and out of there. We decided to go with only the ash trees. Public Works went out and painted the yellow hold lines to comply with FAA regulations. They were so faded you couldn't hardly see them. They were noted in our inspection from the Bureau of Aviation, so we painted those. And we hired a part-time airport manager, who is Ray Gurney, who is here tonight. Okay, those are for the airport. Moving on to other things in the city. We took ownership of the pit townhouses in Ball Hall. We removed 2 blighted houses. We worked with the owner of the former McGregor Station, as you all have, I'm sure, seen. The Lorraine demolished the house behind there in the blue building. Next is the station. The equipment is still over there. It's my understanding that will start any day. They were waiting on DEP approval for the asbestos abatement. Apparently, there was asbestos caulking around the windows. They weren't allowed to tear it down until that's removed. It has been removed. They just need the final seal to say tear it down. This has been something that everybody in town has been trying to get done for 12 years. I won't sit here and tell you they're going to take the tanks. That wasn't part of my push. I wanted the blight taken care of. The tanks are in the ground. Yes, they're supposed to take them out, but nobody's been able to accomplish that, and me included. Don't think that's part of the project, but at least the eyesore will be gone. We formed and poured 6 sidewalks in the C1 and C2 district as part of the plan with TRA, where we obligated to take care of sidewalks for 5 years. This will be the 3rd year that we have done these projects. We started a city Facebook account, thanks to Diana, who started and put that together for us. And she also does the social media monitoring and posting, which, again, takes more of Diana's time. She also applied for and administered a CDBG grant. Diana also applied for and was awarded the National Historic Register grant, which was $1,100. That is the sign in front of City Hall that I referred to earlier that Public Works put in. We applied for, if anybody read the paper today, Diana applied for the recycling grant and was awarded it as of Saturday. She was notified. The recycling grant is for $338,896. Big grant, one of the highest ones awarded, and we got it here in Titusville, so that's fantastic. And that's to rehab the Public Works West building and grounds.
And that includes track, what is that?
Skidder?
Skidder, some sort?
Includes a skidder on tracks with a grapple, a jackhammer, and forks. Also a fence around the entire property for privacy. It will enable us to start a recycling program where we can make mulch, we can give that back to the residents. Once we get this all squared away, we'll be able to provide them with mulch. We'll have a lot of different things that we can recycle out there. Not cans and that type of thing, don't get me wrong, but we store our millings out there now. Any leaves that we pick up will be turned, they'll be rolled over and turned into a mulching type of stuff.
So everything will be moved from the sewage treatment plant over here?
Most everything. We may still break concrete down there because we don't want to disturb water lines that are down by the waterworks plant. But that would be the only thing we would do out at the other end of town. Applied for a VCED grant for the challenge course. We talked about that. That was our initial plan for where the house was in Burgess Park. That was taken down. We did not get that grant. Doesn't mean we won't ever get it, but we did apply for it. We just did not get awarded it. But there again, Diana spent a lot of effort just applying for that grant. These grants require a book about this thick of information to be put together. We applied for and also received a wellness grant for the exercise equipment and many other things that is over in the basement of the police station. Our fire, police, and public works, any city employee is allowed to use this equipment. They have pretty much a full gym set up down there. Kathy is in HR, has been working on those grants and has received many different allocations to purchase that stuff. So we have not used taxpayer money for that. And it helps keep our police and fire healthy, public works. That concludes my report. Again, I want to thank all of the workers. They've all done a tremendous job. I especially want to take this moment because it's probably going to be my last meeting. But I want to thank the seated city council. It's been just great working with you guys. We all think kind of the same way, I believe, and we've gotten a tremendous amount of stuff done because we're all here for the same reason. We're here to do what's best for the town. I thank you for the trust you put in me during this administration. It's been great for all of us. We've really made some accomplishments, and it's been good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have the motion to accept his report,
So moved.
but I think we already went through that. Heather did it and Tammy did it, so sorry. We need a vote. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Is there a motion to accept the operational reports of the finance, fire, human resources, risk management, treasurer, police, and water for the month of November 19th, 2019, as submitted and placed on file?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Bill, are there any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Is there a motion to, sorry.
One afterthought here.
yes,
On the fire department's report and the police report, it's amazing, the work that they do. Thank you. I thought I saw Dustin in here, but
There is.
yep, it's in the back.
okay. The community work that your officers do and what they give back to this community, as well as our fire departments here, you know, the dispatch time that they have, dispatch to en route time, a minute 22, they're in Hightown before Hightown department rolls. So that's the kind of service that we have.
Yep.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay, is there a motion to accept and place on file the minutes of the redevelopment authority of 8/5?
I'll make that motion.
Tammy,
Second.
Bill? Comments? Call the roll?
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Is there a motion to ratify the bill listing warrants dated 11/22, 12/6, 12/13?
Motion to ratify, Mayor.
Donald?
Second.
Bill? Comments or questions? To you folks that are new, we get the bill listings from Larry. During the month, we have the opportunity to take a look at them. We can shoot out an email, or we can call, or we can question them in a public meeting here and do so. But we are able to read them or see them monthly. Call the roll?
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi? Yes. Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Planning Commission, is there a motion to reappoint Rhonda,
So moved.
whatever her last name is?
Clark.
Rhonda, thank you. Rhonda Clark to a 4-year term ending 1/1/24.
I'll make that motion. Or the bill.
Bill, and then Heather.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments? No, call the roll?
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Is there a motion to reappoint Barb Ives to the Shade Tree Commission to a 5-year term ending 1/1/25?
Motion to reappoint.
Donald?
Second.
Bill? Call the roll?
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. Is there a motion to reappoint Robert Cartney to the Shade Tree Commission to a 5-year term ending 1/1/25?
Motion to reappoint.
Donald?
I'll second.
Call the roll?
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Setting the 2020 tax rate, is there a motion for Council Bill number 8 of 2019 on the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
Heather?
I'll second.
Bill? Larry?
Council Bill number 8 of 2019, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Crawford County, Pennsylvania, fixing the real property tax rate for all city purposes for the year 2020 at 24.713 mills on buildings and 71.25 mills on land. Also delineating that portion of the real property tax to be used for recreational purposes, for pension recovery purposes, for library purposes, and for the shade tree purposes. for the calendar and fiscal year 2020. And this is the same rate as prior years, no tax increase.
No change. Larry, I have a question. All of these other portions that we set aside for the other reasons, is that like required by the city code or?
Yes, yes.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Mrs. Champion?
Yeah.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes. Is there a motion to adopt Accounts Bill number 9, 2019, second reading of the 2020 budget?
I'll make that motion. I'll second that.
Tammy?
Council Bill number 9 of 2019, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Crawford County, Pennsylvania, appropriating specific sums estimated to be required for the specific purposes of the city government, City of Titusville, hereinafter set forth during the year 2020, and for fixing the salaries and certain officers, and employees of the City of Titusville for and during the term for which they are respectively elected or chosen for appointment. And I will read these individually because we have a lot more people here tonight. I read them at the last meeting, but I'll read them again. As far as revenues, total real estate taxes collected, projected to be collected, $2,115,928. Total residence tax, $100. Total other taxes, $482,700. Total licenses and permits, $97,725. Total police fines, $33,250. Total interest income, $5,000. Total rent, $1,000. Total federal government grants, $100,298. Total state reimbursement, $296,900. Total local pilot, $12,000. Total school reimbursement, $28,000. Total zoning fees, $1,100. Total public safety, $10,000. Total streets revenue, $26,200. Total healthcare contribution, $55,000. Total culture and recreation, $21,000. Total miscellaneous revenue, $10,500. Total reimbursed expenses, $20,000. Total contributions and donations, $5,000. Total other revenue, $6,000. Total interfund transfers, $921,123. Total budget reserve, $100,000. Total general fund revenue, $4,348,824. Expenditures. Total city council, $12,285. Total city manager's office, $100,660. Total finance department, $94,736. Total treasurer's office, $51,306. Total legal, $12,325. Total city controller, $9,023. Total HR and risk management, $71,277. Total information technology, $16,000. Total city building and central services, $100,633. Total police department, $1,485,487. Total fire department, $963,132. Total building inspector, $26,965. Total planning and zoning, $600. Total civil defense, $6,939. Total health inspector, $2,100. Total public works department, $896,441. Total street cleaning, $11,000. Total snow removal, $57,500. Total street signs and markings, $12,500. Total street lighting, $89,500. Total sidewalks and crosswalks, $16,500. Total machinery repair, $18,500. Total street maintenance, $16,000. Total streets and bridges, $1,200. Total parks and recreation, $117,585. Total shade tree commission, $9,000. Total library, $5,000. Total economic development, $2,000. Total intergovernmental expenditures, $1,175. Total retirement and employee buyback, $40,000. Total administrative fees, $2,680. Total insurance, $22,850. Total contingency, $15,925. Total general fund expenses, $4,348,824.
In this budget, we will be paying off, or the new council will be paying off the last debt that the city owes. We worked hard to get us to that point. 12 years ago, when I first got on council, there was the talk of taking us into bankruptcy. And I knew we could prove, we could show the people that we can live within our means. And we did just that. So hopefully, we'll have a council that will take us home to pay off that last debt. And shortly, I'm gonna discuss that a little bit more. But Larry and Diana, I wanna thank you. Once again, Diana and Larry are responsible for putting the budget together, and they bring it to council. Many years ago when I started, the budget, I still have it. It was a binder of about that thick. We now have it to about that. It's now easy to read. And I can thank Larry and Diana for that. They've done a fantastic job. The department heads have done a fantastic job. I cannot say enough wonderful things about the employees of this town. We have top-notch department heads and employees. I truly believe the city of Titusville has the best employees, bar none. And we worked hard to get there. So thank you, Larry, and thank you, Diana. Any other comments or questions?
Ditto.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Civil service rules for the police, resolution 23 of 2019. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Heather?
I will second.
Bill?
Resolution number 23 of 2019. The foregoing police civil service rules and regulations, which are in accordance with powers granted by the Civil Service section of the Third Class City Code, Act 22 of 2014, sections 4401 through 4410, enacted by the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, pursuant to the Act of July 15, 1957, PL 901, number 399, CL 11, the optional Third Class City Charter Law, and in accordance with the authority granted by the municipal governing body of the City of Titusville, Crawford County, Pennsylvania, are hereby adopted by the Civil Service Board of the City of Titusville.
Comments? Call the roll.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Civil service rules for fire, resolution 24, 2019, a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Resolution number 24, 2019. The foregoing fire civil service rules and regulations, which are in accordance with powers granted by the Civil Service section of the Third Class City Code, Act 22 of 2014, sections 4401 through 4410, enacted by the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, pursuant to the Act of July 15, 1957, PL 901, number 399, CL 11. The optional Third Class City Charter Law, and in accordance with the authority granted by the municipal governing body of the City of Titusville, Crawford County, Pennsylvania, are hereby adopted by the Civil Service Board of the City of Titusville.
Good?
Yes.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt resolution 25 to appoint city clerk Diana in the amount of $12.50 a month for both the manager and city clerk position?
I'll make that motion.
Tammy?
I'll second.
Heather? Any comments or questions? Resolution 25, Larry?
Okay, resolution 25 of 2019. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Titusville to appoint a city clerk effective January 4th, 2020.
Comments? Call the roll.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt resolution 26 to appoint an interim manager? Or appoint, Diana for city manager, interim.
I'll make that motion.
Donald?
I'll second.
Heather?
Resolution number 26 of 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Titusville to appoint an interim city manager for the City of Titusville effective January 4th, 2020.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Article 191, airport fuel sales. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 27 of 2019?
I'll make the motion.
Bill?
Okay, can I clarify, it's 10% adjusted within 60 days? Is that what, okay.
Yes.
I'll second.
Larry?
Resolution number 27 of 2019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Titusville adopting certain amendments to the city's consolidated schedule of fees as established by ordinance number 3028 of 2000.
Okay, call the roll. Excuse me.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Champion?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Okay, public participation.
Yeah, James Elliott, 306 North Franklin Street. Mayor, or actually City Manager Larry, can you tell me how many city employees took part in the $40,000 employee buyback expense that was on the budget?
That's budgeted for next year. I have no way of knowing that. That will depend on who retires.
Okay, so it wasn't from 2019, it's just for
It's projection for
2020,
2020.
gotcha. Okay, and then also I have one other question for the mayor actually. Can you tell me, is the outgoing mayor going to shut down her mayor Facebook page?
Okay, are there any other questions?
I think that's a good one.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Now, council and mayor. So, I'm gonna talk for just a little bit. It's my last meeting. 2006, I decided to run, or I decided to get involved in government. And I remember going to a Republican meeting at a individual's place. Actually, it was Margaret and Chris Field's house. There was a group of individuals there, and they were concerned about our town. Now, first of all, I want to let everyone know, I'm not here slamming anyone. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my history with getting involved in being in government and what I found, what transpired in the last 12 years, or a little more than that. But anyway, I got involved, I went there, there was concern about where the city was going. And I remember at the time, Jim Nystrom was there, Mr. Joe Carter was there, Denny Payton was there, Sharon Lumley, dear friend of mine, was there, and a few other people that, Bill Webb, but individuals that were concerned about where the city was going. And I agreed with them. But it was also at the time where there was an open letter sent to the Titusville Herald. John, Mr. Crouch, I would encourage you to, when you get involved in government, go and look in the archives. Research, John, so you can see a lot of what took place many years ago.
Okay.
Okay? So anyway, there was an open letter to the Titusville Herald And there was a group of individuals that signed a petition. And on that petition, and I'm gonna read a little bit about this, what this letter had to say. But the very first person on that letter, or on that petition, was John and Esther Smith. Because we were concerned about what was taking place. And I'm gonna tell you what the concern was about. But there was a lot of individuals that lived in the city that signed that. Jim and Rose Neister, Bob and Amy Felton. These were names that were put in the Herald, Titusville Herald. John and Lois Crouch. Larry Manross, you're on that letter. The open letter to the Titusville Herald, the open letter to the City of Titusville Administration Council said this. The undersigned, albeit residents, taxpayers, and/or water and sewer rate payers of the City of Titusville or service organization located within the community, we hereby register our serious concerns and displeasures with the policies and practices of the city manager, which are supported consistently by certain members of city council. Remember, by certain members of city council. These concerns are focused on the fiscal policies of the administration and the manner in which they relate to the citizens and organizations in neighboring municipalities. It goes on to say, to counter this trend, it said that the traditional sources of revenue to balance the operating budget of the City of Titusville has been property taxes, as we know, earned income taxes, and a variety of miscellaneous fees and charges. With the loss of middle income class jobs, successful tax assessment appeals, and loss of population, these sources of revenues have decreased significantly. To counter this trend, this administration has by and large disregarded the issue of whether its citizens and taxpayers can continue to support the current level of public service and has resorted to practices which we regard as deceptive, I sign that, are alienated the citizenry and serve only to postpone the inevitable difficult decisions that should be made now. It says in 2006, the city, in order to alleviate a budget deficit, increased the assessed valuation from 95% to 100%. Regardless of how city officials describe this increase, it is a 5% increase in city property taxes. The city is very close to the limit of millage it can impose without court approval. Does that sound familiar? In the last few months, the stuff that had been circulated, those are the same things that was put on that. The city is very close to the limit of millage it can impose without court approval. If past practice is an indication, it will look to water and sewer rates and other creative ways to raise revenue. Same thing that we've been hearing. City Council raised water rates by 15% and sewer rates by 8% for the year of 2006. Do not be misled, these increases are necessary to, do not be misled that the increases are necessary to cover the cost of delivery. To the contrary, they have been imposed because the city manager and council cannot balance its operating budget of the city without the use of these funds. Regardless of how the administration labels these increases, they are equivalent to tax increases. And I want you to pay close attention to what I'm saying, please. The decision to raise the rates is the decision of the city council following the recommendation of the city manager and finance director and not any consultant. 1/3 of the salaries and fringe benefits for the city manager, finance director, public works director, others are being charged to the administrative expenses in the water and sewer funds. Does that sound familiar? That is what has been said right along. This would conservatively amount to about $95,000 to $110,000. We doubt that these individuals spend 1/3 of their time working on water and sewer related issues. We'd like a breakdown of all city employees that are bringing charges and or allocated to these funds. Does that sound familiar? This is what they've been asking for. This is what, and I'm going to mention a name, this is what Mr. Larry Weldon has been asking for and saying right along. These are things that have been talked about in 2006. In summary, the city could potentially be taken in excess of $450,000 from the 2006 City Services Fund and using it to cover budget shortfalls in areas completely unrelated to the Water and Sewer and Refuse Fund. Eugene Mitchum said many people had signed the letter published in the Herald and council had been represented with additional signatures. He said people wanted the cost of government reduced and want it to be reduced now. Please heed the warning and get costs under control. This time is now. You have fettered away a pretty good city. This is 2006. As an example, it was noted that in the police department there are currently 13 officers and the chief, 14. Chief, how many do we have now?
Currently 9.
Currently 9. In 1999, there were 17 officers. We have seen every department, the employees be depleted, and we have kept a close watch. This administration has kept a close watch on all of the departments, but this was a concern in 2006. Now you're wondering, why am I saying this? My dear friend, Jim Nystrom, God rest his soul, we were very close. And when Jim got on board, Jim absolutely believed that these interfund transfers were wrong. Until Jim got on. When Jim got on, you never heard any more. I know, I served with Jim. He was a good man. In 2006, Mary Ann Naw was the city manager at the time, and I'm responsible. I want you to know I was one of them that voted to relieve Mary Ann of her duties. I do have a few public apologies tonight, and it's not going to be to the people that you may think I do, but you think I should. Mary Ann Naw, she did a great job in certain areas. There was other things that she did that wasn't, in my opinion, so great. Back at that time, Mr. John Fry called it a witch hunt. It wasn't a witch hunt on my end. I did not relieve her because I was out to get her. I was out to get our city in line financially. We were discussing at that time going bankrupt, and I knew we did not have to go that route. And that was the reason why I got so involved. Now I just need to go through some of my papers here. So have patience with me. Some of the problems that the city has encountered goes back to leaders from yesteryears. Back in 1994, Carolyn Ford put verbiage in the contract for our police department. And in that contract, most people had no clue of, there was an annual compensation for the position of a departmental review officer, which in the last 45 days of their employment, an increase of 40% over his most recent base wages, including longevity, pay, and shift differential, was applied, and that's what caused our pension, some serious pension problems in the city of Titusville. Mary Ann Naw, the manager that I was responsible to eliminating her job, she got that verbiage out. That saved the taxpayers huge dollars. Approximately 26 police officers benefited by that alone. This is not a slam against our police force, because I would question the mental stability of any police officers if they didn't accept that. I do not at all blame our police force, but this is the type of leadership that damages our town. Not knocking people, but the only way you can correct the problems is to look back, go into the archives, look back to find out the mistakes we made, to find out the mistakes Esther Smith made, and improve on them. That's how we better ourselves. Just have patience with me, please. Back in 1993, Carolyn Ford recommended that Carolyn Ford's recommendation Ford recommended that we involved eliminating the city's contribution to the Titusville Leisure Service. And I'm going to discuss just a few things, so just give me 10 minutes here. And she made the comment of where the things should be cut. Mrs. Ford said at that time that the residents were telling her that the city must cut back and tighten our belts. And they said that at the time, and this was December 15th of 1993, that we've been living way too high on the hog. Over the years, when I got involved, I heard the same thing. Larry Manross tightened our belt. We visited every department. Every one of our department heads can vouch for it that we tightened our belt. But the people were hollering back at that time. We had to make some tough decisions. One thing that we changed was the tax anticipation note. And there's going to be, I would like for us to, in just a few minutes, to discuss some of the things that the changes that we made in the last 8 years. One thing that took place for years was a tax anticipation note. Every year they took this note out. In 2006, they took out an amount of $500,000 from PNC and paid an interest rate of 3.95% and a $250 loan origination fee. Larry totally eliminated that because we didn't need to do that. Larry, you want to explain that to the people, what the tax anticipation note was for?
We take it out to get us through the first 3 months of the year. First 3 months of the year, we don't have any taxes coming in. Taxes are always due in the spring. So consequently, we still have bills. We have payroll, this type of thing. So they would take out a tax anticipation note because they didn't have any carryover funds left over to carry them through that first 3 months and pay the bills. Yeah, we have eliminated that. We've made it through the first 3 months every single year in the last 8 years. So that note went up to $1 million. When I took over, they were taking out $1 million. And the thing that always puzzled me was we took out $1 million note, and it only took $300,000 to carry us through the first quarter. I can't explain why they took out $1 million. But in any event, we don't do that anymore. The interest back when I started on that note was $12,000 in 1 year.
So we learned we've been cutting. We've been everywhere we could possibly save, everywhere we could possibly cut, everywhere we could possibly curb spending, we have done that. One thing we did that was, this was a tough thing to do, we brought in-house the CDBG, that's Community Development Block Program funds that we administer now in-house. I would encourage anybody to take a look at this. In 19 years, and again, this isn't a fault of our Titusville Redevelopment Authority, not a fault at all. But the Titusville Redevelopment Authority was administering these funds. In 19 years, there was approximately $1.3 million in administrative funds and other funds that came into the Redevelopment Authority that could have been brought into the city. We have been, just a minute, Jim. Back in 2006, Gary Thomas, that was, he was an interim, not in 2006, but back in, not 2006, I'm sorry, it was 2000, I'm thinking it was 2008. But Gary, that was one of his recommendations, and I have those in minutes in here, that we need to bring those in-house. We've had numerous people come to us and tell us those are funds that should be administered by the city, but that's huge dollars. I would encourage anybody to take a look at that. Jim, I'm talking.
Can you tell me how much the redevelopment authority charged you to do the grants for the city of Titusville? Did they charge the city for the granting, to write the grants?
That is that.
Well, that was their administrative cost in the grant, which the city gets now themselves, but did the redevelopment charge you, did it send you a separate bill to write the grants?
They received,
They did not send us a bill.
Yeah,
They received from the CDBG fund.
from the funds themselves,
but
they got
then they
administrative
received
costs.
also an additional $18,000, Jim.
But they didn't take any money from you guys, they took it from the
They took it from
CDBG
us
funds.
because we would
Well,
have had that money as a grant money, but we
It was a
gave
state
it.
grant, state or federal grant, but it
But
wasn't
still,
a separate bill.
we brought that in-house, okay? So these are ways that we could save money and curb, and again, this isn't a slam against the redevelopment authority. This is simply telling you the things that we've done in the past 8 years. Now I'm gonna just take us from east to west. If you take a look at our parks and services, parks and recreation, we did the ball field. We redid the tennis courts. Yes, we eliminated a pool that was in very bad shape. We put in a new splash pad. All the buildings on the grounds, prior to Larry Manross, we had the Leisure Service Board, and many of them can vouch for the conditions of the buildings on our grounds. They're in deplorable shape. We have redone all of those. We've done major infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I remember one time my buddy Jim Nystrom said, Esther, one thing about it, any sewer or water project will never get a person elected. That's stuff done that can't be seen. But we've done so many of those particular jobs. We have out there at the Weldon Bus Garage, there was a serious issue out there. We had our public works director at the time, he did the engineering at that time for that. And what was the price roughly on that job out there, Larry?
Oh, it was, I don't.
We're looking at a few
Couple
hundred thousand.
Yeah, a couple $100,000.
We've if you're coming down on Central Avenue, we did the wall across from the ball field. We did the main wall on the creek on Brown Street. Is that Brown Street? That project alone was $300-some thousand. These are projects that should have been done years ago, but we started addressing the main infrastructure in our town. Gentlemen, you could also add too some of the stuff that we've done as I'm talking. That'll give me some time to look for a few things I want to bring out. Also I'll stop for a second. Back in 2010, we were told that there was a $250,000 shortage, and probably the only person in here, or one of the only persons in here, would be the chief that remembered that. One thing I want to tell you, City Council knows very little about what's going on inside of city government. Our manager and Diana are running the city, and it was brought to our attention that we had a $250,000 shortfall. I looked back at some of the statements in the minutes, and that was a very heated time because we were going to lay off 2 police and 2 firemen, if I recall at that time. And at that time, they were wanting us to do away with paving the streets, keep our safety. Remember that, chief? Keep the safety and don't pave the streets. Prior to me going on, there was times where they didn't even pave the streets. They went 2 years without paving. But one person says, don't let the headlines say council chooses paving over public safety. We had to make the hard decisions. This council did. There isn't any of these decisions that I made that I regret or apologize for. The only thing that I apologize for is Mary Ann Naugh. I feel bad looking back because I got sucked into a group of individuals that led me on the same path that these people have been led this year. I got sucked into believing that the interfund transfers were somehow wrong, or somehow being done shady, illegal. And found out that those same individuals that said that found out that it wasn't. One being, like I said, my friend, Mr. Nystrom.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Can I just make one comment? Anna, Cyber 518 Yale Street. When you're talking about interfund transfers, along with that, a lot of organizations run their money, manage their money that way. And I can go on record to tell you that the administrator of the hospital stated to me personally that that is how the hospital is run, with the interfund transfers. He's not alone. Many organizations operate the same way. It's the way you smartly manage money. And so this isn't anything that's a big deal. I just want to clarify if people are thinking, oh, that's so terrible. It's not terrible. It's the way money is run.
Thank you.
For 12 years, I've served you folks. I did the best that I could.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have zero regrets. And someone can say something. Go ahead.
Well, I know I've enjoyed working alongside every single one of you. I've really learned a lot. And had a great time, and I think this council should be very proud, and I certainly thank Rich and Diana and Larry and Esther and Bill and Dawn and Tammy, and I'm so glad I got to know you guys, and I wish the next council the best of luck, and it was really enjoyable these last 4 years. It went fast, so.
There's one more thing I would like to say. And Larry, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you. It has been an honor to serve with you, Mr. Manross.
Yes.
I have a great respect for you. I've seen Larry take verbal beatings. I've seen him be falsely accused. I have seen one big thing would be our airport, the airport dealing. He made one public announcement. You didn't hear him defend himself. You didn't hear him go out, and there was times I wanted to hit him up alongside the head and say something, Larry. But just recently, I'm going to tell you, last month, when Larry made the comment, or made these, I'm sorry, not comment, but made the public statement that he was resigning, a couple individuals went out on social media and they made the comment that if the city is fiscally responsible, like they've been saying all along, they should fire Manross immediately, effective yesterday. And there were some other individuals that I'm not going to bother reading. But what you don't know, and I'll tell you, Mr. Manross could have waited till the first part of the year, because they would have let him go. 9 chances out of 10, they would have let him go. And some of the social media comments I saw indicated that. And that is nothing new. That's nothing new, because that's what a lot of time happens, you know? But if Larry would have waited and would have been let go or fired, Larry could have collected a severance pay. And that was substantial. And then he would have also been able to collect 26 weeks worth of unemployment. And when I read this, I called him and I said, Larry, I think this council should fire you. And his words were, no, Esther, I cannot take that from the taxpayers. His heart has always been for the taxpayers.
Thank you, Larry.
Let me tell you something. An election, we should always go for honest and fair elections. That's what it's all about.
And we did.
And if you disagree with policy, that's okay. That's okay. You can disagree with the way whatever I vote for, and you want to go in and make a difference, that's what it's all about. That's the process. But let's not ever go through and harm anyone. You can say what you disagree about, but never ever put out something that's going to damage someone else. So like I said, I'm not here to run anyone down. I'm here to say thank you, folks, for allowing me to serve you. Thank you, Larry. It's been an honor. Council, thank you. There's council prior that I served with. I thank you. Chief, thank you. Please tell your force thank you. And stand for integrity, and stand for truth, and stand for righteousness.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry about that. I was not going to do that. But go ahead, Tammy.
No, I just want to agree with everything that you said and thanking everyone for their service.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I think we're going to stand and pray, if you wouldn't mind. And then we're going to be going into an executive meeting. Heavenly Father, again, it's an honor to serve you. It's an honor to be your Father. I pray, Father, that you will continue to be and lead in our community. Father God, for years I've prayed, Holy Spirit, reign upon us and reign over this town. Reign over us, REIGN, Lord. Please be with our those coming in, Lord. I pray that you'll give them wisdom and understanding, guidance, Lord, from above. Let thy mercy settle down upon them, Father. And Dawn and Tammy, give them strength to stand. Let them all stand together and lead in unity. Father God, be with us. I pray, Lord, thank you, Father, for this time of year. I thank you for your birth, the birth of your son. Thank you, Father. I pray that you'll bless 2020. Let us go forward and honor you in everything we do and say. In Jesus' name we ask it all. Amen. Thank you so much for coming, and please come to the following meetings in the new year.